Welcome, everyone. My name is Breen Sullivan. It is my pleasure to have everyone here today for this amazing roundtable discussion that is focused on FemTech and the future of work. Before we dive into the meat of the discussion, just a brief word about the fourth floor. For those of you that don't know, what we do at the fourth floor is match startups and companies to board-ready women. We do that in an efficient and in a cost-effective way in order to disrupt the traditional board search process, specifically to overcome the systemic barriers that have kept women out of the board candidate pipeline historically. We also match underrepresented founders and fund managers with women angels and LPs in our backroom investment club. We do this because we know and believe that women invest differently than men, and that difference will unlock a missed opportunity worth trillions of dollars. I also think that point's going to be very relevant for this discussion that we're going to have today. Startup founders listening, if you are seeking advisors, directors, angel investment, and/or powerful network, please consider joining the close to 800 startups that we currently have using our board seat exchange. And if you are looking for your first board opportunity, or your third, or your fifth, or you're interested in investing, please consider joining our candidate pool of over 1,500 board-ready women, or our backroom investment club if you're interested in investing. So you can learn more at our website and/or our platform tour. We're putting those links in the chat. I see that they were there. So let's get to the point of today, which is FemTech and the future of work. So just for everyone who is here, who is listening, what is FemTech and why should we care about it? Why is this relevant? So FemTech companies create digital tools that enable and empower the productivity, functionality, experience, and well-being of families. They help make the intersection of work and family life simple by creating value for everyone. So obviously this makes sense. This creates a lot of value and a lot of good for all of us, certainly women, but we're all affected by that. FemTech covers all types of caregivers. So, not just a mother and a child, and it's critical, taking care of the aging, ill, or young, that needs all of our attention and support. So that just gives some context for FemTech and future of work and this discussion that we're about to have today. So it is now my pleasure to turn the spotlight over to the skillful and fantastic moderator, Tracy Byrnes, joining us from UBS. She is a financial advisor. And interestingly, she really focuses on women who are navigating through transition, through also entrepreneurship, and and divorce and other areas of transition. So considering the intersectionality of FemTech and the future of work and women, especially women navigating these transitions, Tracy is indeed a perfect moderator for today's discussion. So with that, Tracy, let me hand it over to you and let you introduce yourself in your own words, give some more context, and take over the panel.
Breen, thank you. Kat, thank you. I'm a huge fan of the fourth floor. I have been pounding the pavement for this organization for a very long time, so I'm thrilled that we are doing this together. I spent over 20 years in media, and I met some rock star women along the way, and there was this common denominator of, with all due respect, right? We don't want to give our money to another old white guy. All the you-know-what at home falls on my shoulders. And these are themes that just haven't gotten better. And so part of the reason I got into financial advisory was to help women figure this stuff out. Part of the reason the panel is doing what they're doing is because they saw a need on the care side. And I think I'm a single mother. How many times I called mothers from home, please pick up my kid because I'm sitting in traffic. It takes a village, and now it takes technology and money. And so I'm honored and thrilled to be doing this today with you all. What I'm going to do, because I can't introduce the panel, our illustrious panel, as well as they can, is I'm going to toss it out to them first. And we have this logical progression here. I think we have representation from all different angles. So I'm going to start actually with Arezou. If you could talk about yourself, talk about your company, because you're coming at it from the corporate America angle.
Yes, hi there. Thank you for having me here. I'm thrilled to be talking about this topic because it is all-encompassing for me, and I've dedicated my life to it. So my majority of my career was spent in corporate America, and I had big jobs in Fortune 10 all the way down to billion-dollar enterprise. But when I became a mom slash caretaker, I really started understanding the challenges that working moms at all levels face. At that time, I was lucky enough to be able to have help, full-time help, to help me keep up with my life, with my household, with my child. But when that help moved on, my life went to shambles, and it was almost an act of God for me to be able to find other help that I could trust. And so that's how I decided to solve this problem for all time-starved parents, time-starved families, and really solve the problem of having access to trusted help as easy as you can book an Uber. And so I founded the company called Emmy. We were incorporated in 2021, and we are growing strong.
Just before we move on, Call Emmy is a service that that your company can offer to you, correct?
Call Emmy is a technology that connects bookers, parents, whoever needs help with trusted, vetted, pre-qualified local childcare and household service providers. And we just recently added companion care to address the sandwich generation.
Right, so we need HR departments to wake up to something like this. Toyosi, you come at it from a different angle. You come at it from home. Tell us about it.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. I'm Toyosi, the founder, CEO, and CTO of Abulé, which means village in my native language, Yoruba, from Nigeria. My experience working in a fast-paced, high-tech job over the past 20 years had led me to build Abulé. As a single mom with a physical disability, it was simply impossible for me to do it all. And so Abulé is an intricate social care network that makes it easier to access, afford, schedule, and value everyday care, including school runs, tutoring, childcare, elder care, and even personal care. Abulé also provides a way for people to earn some money by completing care tasks for one another or sharing their knowledge. And I'm so delighted to be building it because I think it changes the way we value and experience care.
And it's almost like a barter system, isn't it, in a lot of ways?
Yes.
And we'll get to this, but you use AI to match,
Correct.
right? People that
Yes.
need care with caretakers.
Exactly. So we use something called a veil system, matching people based on values, experiences, interests, and lifestyle, so that they can start to build a trusted network of support.
So Stephanie, you come in, you pull up the rank in the back here, but you are arguably one of the most important pieces of this story because you're the one going out there getting the money for this stuff, right? You're the one going out there finding venture capital funds, and yet for some reason there's a little bit of a disconnect between the importance of it and your experience out there. So please tell us why you got into this industry at this point.
Thank you, Tracy. I would disagree. I think the founders are absolutely the most important part of this. They're doing the hard stuff.
They are. And I didn't mean to do that, but
no, but totally.
We need money. Everybody needs money at the end of the day.
Raising funds is not easy, on our end either. Right. But so I'm the co-founder and general partner of the Artemis Fund. We're a venture fund based in the United States. We lead or co-lead seed rounds for female-founded and co-founded companies, modernizing and diversifying wealth. And so what that means to us is primarily financial services, fintech companies, and the other side is the care economy. So anything that helps reduce the burden of care so that more women in particular can stay in the workforce and reach our full financial potential, because we believe that wealth is power, and the best way to get it is through building a business or staying in the workforce. And so This is a huge growing market. I think there's been a ton of attention, especially post-COVID, when everyone, had their nannies, schools, everything canceled. We had to do this ourselves. Hopefully men started to see like how much work it is and how hard it is. It's a $650 billion problem. It affects, 25% of all millennials are now caregivers as we're having children later. It's not just taking care of children, but our aging parents. We referenced the sandwich generation earlier. There's been a lack of investment in this space, typically because it's been mostly seen as women's work. There hasn't been as many diverse funders who understand the problem and the potential opportunity here. However, we're starting to see that change. There's been more funds, particularly funds by female and diverse managers, raised to invest in the care economy and femtech and fintech. And I think that's a really amazing bright spot. I think some of the entrepreneurs that what we're looking at today and that we're backing today are going to revolutionize the way we care for our families and help us remove the choice between happy family and happy career.
Because right now it's definitely, at least some days, it's absolutely a choice. I was saying to Kat the other day, my brother and his husband have 2 little kids, and I wonder if they're going to be the start of the men starting to understand how, it's hard. The juggle is real, right? And so Arezou, I'll come back to you. If you're standing in an HR office and you're presenting this and saying you can offer this to your employees, which, by the way, we want to get back to work. I would think, especially based on what's going on in commercial real estate these days, this should be a layup. Get your people back, offer them help, childcare, lactation rooms. What's the problem?
I don't think that the problem is HR. I mean, I've talked to tens of HR benefit managers, directors, and they all get it. It's the sense of urgency, because today they're not offering it. There's a few companies, that are providing subsidies for childcare in particular, not a lot of them, and it's very limited. So let's set those companies aside. For the majority of the companies, right, they're not offering this. They're offering 401k and
right.
health. And so the sense of urgency, the call to action is, why should we do anything different? And why should we do it now? And that's what's lacking. And what can we do? Unfortunately, by the time they wake up to it, 25% of the workforce is gone, because as we speak, 25% of the workforce is thinking about quitting, just like they did during the pandemic. 2 million women left the workforce because they needed to be care providers. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, they've all come back. But again, 25% of the workforce can just walk out the door. And majority of that is women. And so by the time they wake up to that is a little too late. So what's missing is the sense of urgency. Nobody is arguing that this is needed. It's just the fire under the belly, which I'm here to light that fire, and I'm not giving up.
I have no doubt you are going to be in Fortune 500 companies across America, just based on speaking to you alone. But what is the urgency then? Is it like some woman showing up saying, if you don't give me a room to breastfeed, this is coming out all over the desk? Like what could be more urgent than that?
I think, and we can dig into this further and further. So there are certain things that need to be amplified in organizations. One is the advocacy groups. More and more companies are putting together ERGs that really look out for caregivers. Nike just put one together, and it was all over LinkedIn. Other companies are doing that, so that needs to be amplified. And then the second thing is, again, diversity at the C-suite. which has been an issue, for quite some time. A lot of the people that are occupying the C-suite offices are not understanding the challenges that a working mom is facing, the day and the impediments for that working mom, for that working first level manager mom to grow her career, because she needs to go pick up her kid from daycare, because her kid is sick and she needs to stay home. These are impediments for her growth. They don't understand it, the people that are sitting in the C-suite. So that diversity in the C-suite will definitely help.
Part of the reason they don't understand it is because, as you just said, 2 million women left during COVID. I mean, women aren't staying long enough to keep climbing this corporate ladder. Stephanie, one of the things you said to me when we were talking was that women need to be schooled more so in investing and not just philanthropy. And we've all been through this, right? I'm a single mom. I was a single mom. I still am, quite frankly. I'm coming up on the aging parent thing. I'm a sandwich just as a, grilled cheese right now. So we all know this. We have money coming down the pike. I've talked like a broken record that the greatest generational transfer of wealth in history is happening as we speak. By 2030, that's not far off. More than 2/3 of US assets will be in the hands of women. That's it. So all we need, this is my simple statement to solve the world, is to get more women to understand this problem and invest. And yet, as you said, Stephanie, it's an educational problem with them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of education to do on many levels. With the corporate space, and also a lot of us have dealt with this. I find that many women aren't just inheriting money, but they're making their own money. And I think they absolutely are intelligent enough and in fact, make great investors. And so thinking about some of the things that, around you where you've had problems, you've recognized a market problem, since it can be in the care space, you can make a huge impact by investing in a company that's going to change the lives of women who've been in your shoes before. Philanthropy is obviously a noble cause. I'm not saying not to do philanthropy. I'm just saying that you can make just as much impact by investing in the causes that align with your values and the problems that you see that have potentially held you back or your family back. We find a lot of men who invest because they say, I want one day my daughter to run a venture fund. I want it to be easier for her in the workplace. I hear her complaining about how it's hard to get ahead, or she just had a child and she's thinking about leaving, and I don't want her to take a step back in her career. So I think that you can make tremendous impact by taking some of that philanthropy dollars and putting it into founders and funds that are making a difference aligned with your values. That's for sure.
I think that that's a big misnomer. And I try to actually tell clients that your investment account should be your side hustle in a lot of ways. It should make you money. Like, it's almost like your part-time job. Let it work for you. And if you get yourself in front of companies that are doing great things, not only does it align with your values, you're making money at the end of the day. Toyosi, you're solving this problem from a different angle. At the same time, though, it still all comes down to dollars, doesn't it?
It does. Yes, it does. But in a different way. From my perspective, the biggest problem I see is divergence in community. Of course, families no longer live within the same communities or cities, right? And everyone is busy working. So it's become harder for folks to tap into family, community-based care. And then another problem I'm seeing is that we continue to point fingers rather than turning inwards. The root cause of care to me is accessibility. And the harsh reality is that there's never going to be enough employer benefits, government programs, or care infrastructure to cater to everyone's highly nuanced and subjective care needs. So if anything, I think that's going to drive the costs higher and increase that inaccessibility, especially for those marginalized. So even if we were to get X number of dollars from our employers, I believe that's actually going to drive, right, the cost. So it's for us to start thinking, really, what is the value of care? In a way, there's monetary rewards attached to it, but then there's also the qualitative measures that can't be measured, right? It's a deeper sense of belonging It's, valuing one another, honoring a woman's wishes to stay home at any sitting in life. Those women are actually the ones that have the highest propensity to step in to help one another. It's removing that stigma that's associated with that and rewarding them for the perceived value. That is what I think is really going to turn the needle.
One of the things too that you and I talked about was this notion that people just don't want to ask for help. And I have to admit, I was probably guilty of that at one point in life too, right? This notion that we all wear red capes and we're superheroes and we have to do it all. And then, oh, by the way, my son is still sitting on the curb at school because I forgot to go get him. So, so much for the red cape. So I think that that's actually something that's a roadblock to this whole problem, isn't it?
It is, especially, I mean, most women are learned these days. It's quite embarrassing to consistently be asking people for help. So I think normalizing, asking for help and finding ways to discreetly, and which is what we've done in Abulé, is finding ways to allow people to discreetly ask for help using our own care tokens, right? And in a way, there's the flip side to that I find is that people often deem of care or child care as a favor. We want to change that. We want people to feel comfortable enough to accept the reward for perceived value, right? If there's a stay-at-home mom that's missing care dollars because she's chosen to stay home to care for her family and could help 1, 2, 3 neighbors out a week, she should be compensated, right? Not only has she lost her day-to-day, funds that she could be, but it's also her future. So we need to be putting dollars in her wallet.
That's a big social conversation that I guess the whole country at some point is going to have and make decisions on. In the interim, though, what's the good news here? There has to be good news. Like, this can't be all, right? Arezou, you shaking your head. What's the good news? There has to be somebody or some companies out there trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, Toyosi and I are 2 examples of companies that are trying to do the right thing, and there 100%. Are more of us coming into this space. So there's good news. The good news that we're talking about it. Right. There's good news that people like Stephanie are coming and saying this is a giant problem and we need to solve it. So the awareness, while it's not ubiquitous, is growing. So that is very good news. And I personally am optimistic, even though, I look like I'm very angry about this. I'm not. I'm just passionate about it. I'm very optimistic that in the next 3 to 5 years, we as a society have made measurable improvements in the space of care economy through the investment, through employers, through government is talking about it, the federal government. Now, I have my own opinion about that, but still, the awareness is there, money will flow. And I also think that, dollars talk. Once dollars start flowing into this space and the return on the investment starts to show, we're not making these numbers up. These are actual numbers. The $650 billion opportunity that Stephanie cited, it's legit. Mm-hmm. It's there. And so once we have some successes under our belt in terms of the companies that have gone and solved this problem and have made, lucrative exits, dollars will flow more. And so I'm actually quite optimistic because we're talking about it and the awareness is there.
It's right. And actually, and I don't remember if it was you or Stephanie that we were talking about how it's just not a sexy investment yet, right? But yet, Stephanie, I saw a statistic, and correct me if I'm wrong, 6.4 billion was invested in care tech in 2020. 2021, it was up to almost 10.8. That's a 68% increase. So in just that year alone, now granted, that's COVID. I think COVID woke us up to this problem, right? Big time. I know I was home for the whole time with my 3 kids, and I was so utterly grateful they were high school, college. For the moms that were home with little ones trying to work, holy cow. There's not enough wings in heaven for them. So,
I
but
definitely think there's been more, absolutely been more investment in this space. I also think there's been a lot more attention, in Biden's State of the Union, he talked about productivity we're leaving on the table because of the caregiving crisis. More and more funds are been raised dedicated to this space. One that I have a lot of respect for is like Magnify Ventures that came out of Pivotal. They've done some really great work called Invest in Care. And there's a report that details a $650 billion problem. McKinsey's done a great research on this. There's quite a few other funds that, we're seeing come to market, make investments, and I think we're going to see incredible returns. I think I am also seeing employers step up to the plate and offer these solutions. One of our portfolio companies, Work and Mother, which is fully equipped lactation suites in the corporate space, she's live in big buildings like JP Morgan, Nuveen, across the country. When I talk to investors, they still ask, where does the baby go? But that takes time. But there are corporates who are understanding that if they want to retain high quality, diverse talent, that they have to do these things. So we're definitely starting to see strides. It's just very exciting.
Yeah, I love that, because we had talked about that. Where does the baby go? But that goes to the notion of diversity in the boardroom, because if it's all men, it goes right over their head. At the same time, too, I also think, and Toyosi, you and I were talking about this. This is not a life sentence, right? Like, I'm going to need a lactation room for a very short period of time. God willing, my kid is going to grow up and move on from that, right? So this is not something that every woman is going to need for an extended period of time. I also think maybe they're missing the ball on that piece of the story.
Yes, most definitely, especially as women, after we have our kids, we want to actually stay home for 1, 2, right, even 3 years. It really shouldn't be a death sentence. And whether by choice or necessity, right, a woman needs to be given the option to choose what it is that she wants to do with her life. And I believe in the power of subsidiarity, right? Is that those closer to the problem are the ones that are most capable of solving the problem. There are 5 key things that I listed down that I believe we could start doing now as women. First is going to sound a little bit controversial, is that we need to stop saying that care is not affordable if we actually want it to be valued. Again, stop saying it's not affordable if we actually want it to be valued. When you think about precious gold, right? It's not affordable. We value it. We still pay for it. In a way, it's kind of like an oxymoronic sentence, right? So I think that's one thing. If we want men to start valuing what we do and making sure that dollars go towards solving for care, that we start to change the way we speak about it. And then I mentioned earlier is to stop stigmatizing women that choose to stay home, whatever season of life it is, because again, those are the people that would have the highest propensity to be able to step in to help, because we can't have enough teachers, enough caregivers, or infrastructures to help us. And then another one Tracy and I spoke about was removing or diminishing that awkwardness and making me ask, right? Making it easier for people to ask, and judiciously compensating caregivers. There was a survey that came out recently that valued the stay-at-home mom's compensation at $175K a year. So to me, mathematically, that tells me that unless you're making $175K plus enough to help, right, like pay your bills, really everyone needs to step in to help wherever they can, when they can, or if they're able to. And that's exactly what we've set out to do, is to provide people with options so that they could either, right, pay for caring with their time or money, or leverage both.
I know, Toyosi, you use AI as part of the way you help people. Stephanie, do you think that if we came out and said, this is an AI play, this is a tech play, that the dollars would come faster, as opposed to saying, I keep coming back to the lactation room and where's the baby, because I think that's hysterical. But is that a better way to market this, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely quite a bit of opportunity in the tech. We've been looking at opportunities that that use data and that use artificial intelligence to better identify populations, match them with services, and make sure that benefits are being used so that there's better quality of life, longevity, or happiness. So if employers are paying for these types of things, or they have them on their platform, what happens a lot of times is they don't do a good job of communicating them out. But if there were technologies that helped help populations enable and use these benefits better, we're super excited about that kind of thing. I think we've seen a lot of childcare companies, we've seen a lot of aging in place companies try to repeat the same model. So I would say any founder who's thinking about this from a tech forward approach would likely have a better chance of raising money right now. It's definitely something where we need a lot of supply of people, but there's definitely room to solve this problem with tech. And so we're super excited about some of those. But, the truth is that we do need people. And to Toyosi's point, there is a huge population of caregivers that we need to address. And I think retooling some of those individuals to increase the supply of caregivers is also an exciting opportunity. We've looked at many companies that are taking, certain populations of maybe caregivers, community support managers, and then use them for other caregiving. So like, how are we thinking about taking one population and using it for the supply to care for another population? And there's lots of new interesting models where you can get paid to take care of your family members. And so we're super excited about that as well.
Yeah, Arezou, you're shaking your head. I almost feel like we need to sell it better to kids in school too, right? Like now it's, well, you become a teacher, a caretaker, you're not going to make any money. So you might as well just go into financial tech. And maybe that's a problem too, isn't it? That's just not the way we should be teaching our kids. Oh, by the way, you can make way more money playing basketball, which is true, than doing just about anything these days. Maybe that's a societal change that needs to happen.
I have no argument on that. I think, now that said, I'm one of the people that says we need to tap into, children's innate talents and abilities and support them in whatever direction they want to go, regardless of how much money they may or may not make. But relative to underappreciating caregivers and educators, particularly in the United States, that is a real issue. And it's all encompassing. For us, very interesting stat here, over 50% of our caregivers are actually teachers. And so they do this as a side gig. Why do they do this? Do they do it because they love to take care of more children after they've been with children 5 days a week, 9 months? No, they don't. They do it because it's supplemental income for them. So what does that say? Right. So absolutely, I think caregiving as a whole, including education, pre-college education, needs to be addressed at the societal level. That said, we, meaning I, Toyosi, and I would venture out and say Stephanie, changing society is going to take decades, maybe centuries. Right. But we want to make a difference today. We want to make a difference in the next 5 years, which is why we're doing what we're doing. And it's all passion driven. I could be making a lot more money than I'm making now, which isn't next to nothing. I would say Toyosi, right?
And Arezou, I think you have to figure out where your passion is, because I don't see it at all. I just don't. It's you have no energy whatsoever. Toyosi, I swear, I'm going to put you up for president. Toyosi, you're doing though what we're talking about, right? You're trying to take advantage of the aging population, kids. Let's keep our aging population healthy and happy mentally, and maybe they could help take care of the kids. Because right now we got a lack of people. We need more help. We got a lot more kids that need care than we do caregivers. So why not take advantage of these people that are kind of just, sitting home, watching their life pass before them, give them a purpose. And that's what you're doing with AI, right?
Yes, exactly. And when you look at cultures around the world, including mine, that's exactly how care has always worked, right? The minute you have an aging parent, they actually moving their family, and in turn, that person helps with childcare. As is my case right now, I'm living with my mom, and I live in an elderly neighborhood. Believe it or not, my 85-year-old neighbor is the person that comes to my aid when I need to travel for work. And she loves having her over. Sometimes I just push her out of the house, like, all right, I've had enough, go to the neighbor, talk to her dog, right? So I think we need to solve for it as a collective and not in silos. I see that we're tending to want to solve for it, childcare separately, elder care separately. And I think that that's not going to allow us to have a deeper sense of community, a deeper sense of belonging, which is something that everyone really yearns for.
Yeah, and I also think it keeps them young, right? It keeps them healthier and young, and that therefore then this could keep going, right? Then they're not a drain on the healthcare system if they're healthy and they're feeling better. And then economically, it just makes sense at the end of the day. Speaking of economics, getting women in particular back to work should be paramount to this country. So we're coming up on we have about 12 more minutes before we're going to open it up to questions. Let's start talking about now, if in this utopian world that I am creating at this very moment, how do we make this better? How do we get more women back to work? We clearly need diversity at the boardroom if they're asking where the baby goes. We know for a fact that we will control the purse strings in the next couple of years. So Stephanie, I'm going to start with you. What do we as women, we as a country, quite frankly, need to do to propel this forward? Because, the three of you are pounding the pavements, and I give so much credit to all three of you, but let's face it, at the end of the day, as Toyosi said, this is a collective problem. How do we start to fix this, Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the easiest thing you can do is speak up if you are in a position of power in a corporation and you have the ability to say, like, we need more resources, start a group. We talked here about support groups, advocacy. Don't be afraid to ask for the things that you need to be successful at work, so that there's more of a demand that is built and more education. I think invest in founders like the ones on the call today and others that are building solutions in this space that are going to revolutionize the future of care. Both companies and funds that are making efforts. I mean, that's all that we can do is advocate and invest in the things that we want to see in the world.
Are you finding there's an ally problem though out there as well? Like, are you finding that it's you sometimes feel like you're standing on your soapbox by yourself out there when you're trying to raise money?
No, I mean, I think half of our LPs are men. So half are men, half are women. There's large corporates in our fund. I think they see they see down the road the trends. They want to serve more women. They want to serve more minorities. They see the demographic shifting. And I think that they see investing in a fund like ours and the companies that we're investing in that are solving real world problems that are going to serve their workforces and their customers. You just have to find your people. When the people that ask me, where does the baby go? Or like, why women? I just know that they're not a fit and I don't waste my time. And when we start to have breakout returns and when we start to have real impact, people are they're going to want to jump on board. And so you have to have, traction and results.
That's it, actually. And it just takes one, right? Arezou, how do we, again, you and I were talking about the world, corporate America wants people back at work. This seems like a logical solution, right? You're going to make my life easier. What do you see? What in your utopian world do you wish was going on right now?
I wish that having people to care for, whether they're children or elderly parent, would be an expectation for all corporate leaders. And the processes, policies, and protocols have been designed with that expectation in mind. Just similar to how, healthcare is an expectation that you're a human being, you're going to get sick, you need healthcare. There's no question, there's no debate about that. And I wish that I look forward to the day that providing care from the employee to someone is an expectation for corporate America. One other thing that I do want to say, and I think that this panel is a great example of what I love to see every day, is women allyship. The pie is big enough for all of us. And we need to be within corporate America and outside of corporate America, we need to be our own best cheerleaders and allies.
100%, 110%. I couldn't agree more. Toyosi, before we take some questions, tell me, I mean, I know the answer is obvious, but what's your utopia look like?
Just helping your neighbor, help at least one person in any capacity once a week, right? It doesn't cost me that much more to drive my neighbor's kid to school, and that would relieve the other person, right? So making small individual atomic changes will definitely result in an exponential network effect that's sure to benefit the society at large. And that's exactly what we want, a network effect, so that we could start to live in the beautiful village that we once knew and loved. So we need to work smarter and not harder. We need to connect the dots.
80-20. I'm all about that 80-20 rule. This question is great, Stephanie. I think for you, what specific areas within FamTech do you believe hold the greatest potential for innovation, growth, and why?
Yeah, so we're super excited about the senior care space. We actually have an investment called Neighbor Force, which is the aging in place, helping the aging in place. So I agree with Toyosi. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal recently about this, about the elderly, helping the elderly and getting them active, reducing loneliness, increasing longevity. So anything around that supports seniors live more gracefully at home instead of centers. So whether that's companionship, health solutions, mental health solutions, anything that protects them, so makes their life more safe. See a ton of senior fraud. We should not accept the level of fraud for our seniors that we experience in the United States. Something needs to be done about it. So anything in the financial services space that addresses the senior community is exciting for us. And then we're always looking for innovative models in childcare and employee benefits. And if it has a layer of tech that can reduce the supply of people that we actually need for this, we love it. But right now I'm mostly excited about senior care.
You know, the financial fraud thing, just on a personal note, is so disgusting to me as a financial advisor, because I've seen grandkids call to say, you know, grandma said it was okay for me to take out whatever, so little, you know, so some brat could go buy a car. It's amazing that it's happening right in their own homes. It's horrible. You know, we have 52 layers of compliance for that reason, because it's just awful what families are doing to their own seniors, quite frankly. Arezou, I'm going to throw this at you. What advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneur looking to enter the FamTech space? Specific skills, knowledge, other than the fact that you're willing to be broke for a bit and you need a heck load of passion.
A long time.
I think that's a commonality with all female entrepreneurs, startup female entrepreneurs, I would say. But what in particular do you think a rising FamTech entrepreneur should have?
You know, I mean, I don't think that this is specific to FamTech entrepreneurs. I think it's for any entrepreneur. And I can only speak, you know, from my own perspective. There was a point of time that I could not stand living unless I solved this problem. I had the idea. At first, it was scary. I didn't want to do it. And you hear a million no's, right? A million people come and tell you you're crazy and why your idea is a bad one and why it'll never work. You talk to some investors and they all say no. You'll hear so many more no's than yeses, but the yes that you really need is in your heart. And there came a time that spoke so loudly to me that I couldn't stand life anymore. It consumed me. And so I think that as an entrepreneur, you have to have that feeling that you keep thinking about this and you keep mesmerizing about it. Now, that said, you also have to be a doer, right? Ideas are good, but really, in my case, and I'd say in most cases, 99% is about tenacity and perseverance and getting it done. Execution, idea in and of itself, everybody has an idea. So be honest with yourself. Are you that passionate about the problem? And are you a doer? This idea occurred to me just a few days ago. It's a partnership idea with a leading brand. And all of a sudden it became all encompassing for me. So I found who in this particular company is in charge of development, found his name, found his email through a variety of sources. He didn't answer my emails. So stalked him, found his phone number, his cell phone number, called him up, and you put yourself out there, but I'm willing to do that. And so be honest with yourself. How far are you willing to go?
I love that, actually. It's totally helpful because at the end of the day, I think that's what it is for all of us here, right? From Kat and Breen even starting this fantastic platform, they had a passion to do it. And I also think we all have this inner desire to help at the end of the day, right? I don't know if I always say, I feel like you hit an age in life where you feel you need to give back. And I don't know if that comes with your ARP card because it came with mine, I guess. But Toyosi, you are doing just that. You're helping in the most sincere way by actually allowing people to barter because maybe they don't have the money to do this. Maybe they just don't have the funds to get the help they need. What kind of advice do you give people who are entering this space? Because I think it's almost philanthropic what you're doing in a lot of ways.
So my advice would be for people to always take a user-centered design approach. Had I not did that from the very onset, I wouldn't be where I was today. And mind you, I started building Abulé way before the pandemic. This was since 2017. So I interviewed well over almost 1,000 parents, and 100% of them said they'd rather trade services, care tasks with their neighbors, family, and friends. But quite often they felt awkward in making that ask. And that's been the main hook even till today. That's the biggest thing I keep hearing from our potential members, right, of our community, that's the unique value proposition that Abulé brings to them is the fact that we're solving for that awkward ask. So it's very important to make sure that you bring users along as you build it, right? It's one thing for us to think of a solution, it's another thing for it to actually really solve people's various, this is something so complex we're trying to solve for. How do you account for all the nuances if you don't really listen intently, to your users? So I think taking a user-centered approach is it's in simple terms.
Yeah. But along those lines, Breen, you just asked a great question. How important is user privacy and data security in this whole space? Because we're talking about kids, we're talking about seniors that potentially have health issues. And I'll throw that out to anyone. I think that's actually fascinating because you need to know about my kid. My kid has a peanut allergy. That should be front and center. So there's medical records now in a weird way, sort of all coming together. How do you address that?
So the way we address that in Abulé is through a multi-level, right, trust system. We want people to actually actively participate in forming those trust bonds, right? I think we're very used to, input in, output, right? Just a service provider type of mentality, transactional based. And we need to start shifting to more community based. So it's a tiered approach in that our security is, right? You come in, you build your tribe, and then you have your community, which could be your kid's school or soccer group, right? You trust them a little bit more. Your tribe, your family, neighbors, you wouldn't be asking them for background checks on a normal day, right? When you're in a pinch. And then you have your community, and then the bigger village. When you go to the bigger village, you have the option of looking at someone's background check at that point. So we're not asking for background checks to reduce that barrier to entry, especially for those marginalized, but it's up to folks, right, to actually start to build. People actually think that they don't have to participate, and that's what I'm trying to get us to change, is that everyone needs to participate in actually vetting their network of support.
Kat, this is great. Missionary versus mercenary. That's 100%. Founders are missionary versus mercenary, I think, on a day-to-day basis. With the last few minutes left, if you could, we'll go through all three of you, just let people know, like, the name of your company, how they can find it. I think, Kat, you put it in the chat, but if you just want to say it that way, it's on the tape as well. Arezou, please start. How can people find you, find your business, and potentially get it into HR?
Yeah, that's great. So there are a variety of ways to connect with us. Go to callemmy.com, call CALLEMMY.com. We have national presence, so if you need help in particular childcare, but also other services, household chores, companion care, etc., just click book a service. You can also download our app. We're in both app stores. That is if you need one. If you want to be, we call you all fairies, by the way. We call our service providers fairies. If you want to be a fairy, we would love that. We have lawyers, we have teachers, we have grandmas. I go on gigs sometimes because I want to keep my ear to the ground. If you want to be a fairy, we would love to have you. And then lastly, and this is perhaps the most important, if you work for a company, and I don't care what size, it could be 10 people, it could be 10,000 people. If you work for a company, please talk to your benefits and or to your DEI advocate about connecting with Call Emmy. We have programs where companies don't have to pay anything, zero, to get onboarded, to get their employees onboarded. And in exchange, the employees will get steep discounts and priorities. So I would love to connect with you all.
I love that. Stephanie, if I'm listening and I know someone coming into money, or I have some money, how do I get in touch with you? How do I get involved in this?
Reach out to me. I just put my email in the chat for both investors
awesome.
and founders. I'm always open to looking at pitch decks, whether it's too early or not. I might know someone else for you. Feel free to reach out to me, Stephanie at theartemisfund.com.
That's awesome. And someone just put up that she does mobile apps for family health. So that was your open. Reach
Awesome.
out to Stephanie. Toyosi, lastly, how do we get in touch with you? How do we get involved in your organization so people can find you?
Yeah, so we're having our big app launch this June, super exciting. And so while I've been talking about, right, peer-to-peer on a smaller scale, how we could help one another, we're actually actively partnering with communities, so schools, corporate organizations, to bring Abulé to their entities. So if you know your kid's school, they could have their own separate sub-community in Abulé and even make it closed, right, to help one another. So that would be the biggest way you could help broaden our reach. And if you want to be an ambassador as well, we also have those incentives there. So our big push is in June, and we're super excited about it. Abulé.io is our website, and you could find us on LinkedIn as well.
I think this is this conversation could go on all day, because I think all of us in some shape or form, whether you have children or not, either are experiencing it or know someone who's struggling with it all. It is a major part of our lives. So I toss back to Kat and Breen now, and thank you both for putting this together. I'll let you close on all this, because it's this was a brilliant, beautiful idea, and I hope the conversation keeps going for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tracy, for doing just a phenomenal job moderating this panel. It's really fascinating.